So I want to do another quick video today, quick for me, about it's something I had tweeted, but it was something I've been thinking about. And it's this concept of basically you keep moving the goalposts and you tell the most next believable lie to the public, and that's like a thing politicians do, the Clintons do. You basically how you get from a flat out to a denial to something like I did it and I'm glad, and then you have the public on your side. And this is something Democrats do a lot, and not Republicans have their share of it, but this is the Democrat mo. And the media is very much like this. They pretend a story is junk, and then okay, they pretend a story happened, but it didn't matter, and then they just keep moving the goalpost until oh no, this did happen, and it's a good thing that it happened. It's really frustrating. It makes it really difficult to deal with people and to listen to them because they're usually somewhere. Someone you talk to or see get a reply from is usually somewhere different in this chain than even where the majority, like where the mainstream media is at, and it's tough, and it makes it really hard to talk to people. So, like for example, leading up to the election, within the last couple, probably last 2 months, it was election fraud is impossible. Mail-in ballot fraud, electronic fraud, it's all impossible. Can't happen. It's so rare. No one's ever been prosecuted for it or something, which isn't true. But I get it. Like okay, it's not like there's 100,000 people in prison for election tampering, right? But then what they were saying is that it's impossible. So then the election occurs. There's clear election fraud, and they say, all right, maybe it's not impossible. All these things you're floating are definitely possibilities, but no fraud occurred. No fraud occurred. You're just saying that. You're just making accusations without evidence. And then it changes from okay, so the fraud occurred, but it was a glitch. It was an accident. It was somebody typing in a wrong zero or something. Which I've heard that explanation from multiple people, but I've also on that same chart not seen those votes taken away at any point. So what's with that? And also the fact that that was the excuse for the one in Michigan, but that it happened in multiple states. It happened in Wisconsin, happened in Virginia, it happened all over the place. You saw these kind of these glitches that they were talking about. And now the vote flipping too. They're trying to say, oh, that's a glitch. So yeah, okay, it was fraudulent. The numbers weren't accurate, but it wasn't done on purpose. And they say, okay, well, so there was some fraud, and it caused problems, but it wasn't enough to change any of the outcomes. That's where most Democrats are right now. And then the next piece of that is okay. So there was fraud in this one situation, and I don't think it was enough to change the outcome. Okay, so it flipped a House seat or whatever. Okay, so it flipped it back to Republican, but it's not widespread enough to be super concerned about, right? That'll be what's next. They're gonna say it's not widespread, and then all of a sudden they're not gonna be able to say it's not widespread anymore. They're gonna say the widespread election fraud only affected the smaller races. It's not enough to overturn the presidency. It's only the smaller races that have to be looked at. Then they'll punt again. They'll say election fraud was widespread, but it wasn't effective enough to change the overall outcome. So, like, okay, fraud did happen everywhere, and it did affect the federal election, but it wasn't enough to change the final outcome, which we know is crap. We know that's not that. We know any fraud is enough to basically change things completely. Not to mention the fact that the media calling stuff super early is its own type of fraud, and that being backed up by essentially fake votes and fake ballots and mail-in shenanigans. That's a problem. And combining that together has a much larger effect than even just the regular old ballot fraud on their own. And then they're going to get to the point where they will say, okay, the election fraud occurred. It did change the results of the election, but it was close enough, and it's not worth now going back to fix this. So Orange Man should step down. And then when that's no longer a tenable position to defend, they're going to say, yes, it occurred. We're glad it occurred. They were trying to save America. And then it'll be when those people are going to prison. It'll be if they do get to go to prison. It'll be they okay, well, we never endorsed this, and this isn't typically how it happens. Blah blah blah. It's this goalpost that just keeps moving and moving and moving. Like no matter what you do, no matter if you because they went from a position of the election fraud being impossible and having said in 2016 that somehow the Russians interfered, which the Russians didn't. Not in any significant way, at least. Like they literally bought some like Facebook ads that were not enough to do anything. Um, But then no, then it goes to, okay, well, yeah, fraud is, it's not impossible, but it didn't occur, to, okay, there's glitches that, like we're seeing this path, and eventually they are going to have to get to the point where they defend it. They're just going to straight up defend the fraud as if that's somehow the lesser of two evils. You know, like, well, wouldn't you defeat Hitler with um, by rigging an election? And then it'll be, okay, well, maybe you shouldn't, but can you understand that these people felt that way? So they're, they're totally innocent. And then, they just, you keep telling the most, basically, you keep telling the most plausible lie. You keep walking it back until at some point the narrative stops. Until at some point it gets gunked up in the courts, or enough evidence is destroyed, or whatever it is, and then that's where they plant their flag. It's the same thing with Hillary Clinton. First it was, oh, private email server, that doesn't exist. Okay, well, okay, she had a primary email server. She had an email server that was that, but she never used it. And it's like, oh, she did use it. Okay, she used it, but she only used it for personal reasons. She didn't use it for classified stuff. That was wrong as well. Okay, so she used it, and she used it for classified stuff, but it wasn't enough classified stuff to be dangerous. And they said, yeah, well, they deleted all these things, and it absolutely was enough classified stuff to be dangerous. And it's, okay, look, she deleted it because it's her property, whatever, and it was good that she deleted it because it's classified. It's not a big deal. And it's like, oh, no, it was a big deal because the Chinese were tracking. Like, they keep moving the goalpost back to the point where it says, well, that's long. Nobody cares about that story anymore. Like, that's how the goalpost go. It keeps moving. That this is something the Democrats do routinely. It's like a PR thing, where it's like, you tell the most believable lie. First, it's a flat out denial. First it's, this cannot occur. Then it's, this did not occur, and then it's, okay, this occurred, but it was an accident. We're seeing this pattern over and over and over again, and we're seeing the same thing with the election fraud stuff. And I think they're doing a huge disservice, because every Democrat who starts to pay attention and then gets left off at any stage of that without following it and just believes whatever the line is, and then when the rug's pulled out from under them, for instance, Trump wins in the Supreme Court, or basically the local houses recount their stuff and then they figure out by hand what the actual results are, or Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and all these other places with, like, the corruption, just their votes are tossed because they're not legitimate. They're not going to have any idea why. They're going to be, they might be stuck at the no fraud occurred, it's a conspiracy theory. That might be where they're stuck, and you're going to really, really, really upset those people. And then the people who you're really upsetting, even worse, are the people who you now are lying to what they're saying. You're lying to confuse other people, to get those people to be mad at them. Really, we should all be mad at the media for putting up with this bullshit. The Democrats and the media, they lie and they lie and they lie and they keep lying. And for some reason, just if it's comforting enough, people say, okay, and then they walk away from it. But that's not the case, and we know that's not the case, and we wouldn't accept that from any administration. We wouldn't accept, like, okay, well, what was with the WMD stuff? Why didn't that show up? Like we didn't. You wouldn't say, oh, well, not only was it, like could you imagine if the stance was, okay, so they fudged the numbers, we used Chinese intel we shouldn't have trusted, and we did this thing, and we didn't get what we were really looking for, but it's the thought that counts. These people, we were trying to do the right thing. Like, could you imagine that being, like, the stance? Like, even if that's a valid stance, which it might be, that you don't, the media doesn't let you get away with that. The electorate doesn't let you get away with that. You still, you still pay the price for the mistakes you made. In this case, with the voter fraud stuff, it's like, they're getting to the point where it's like, okay, this thing, so we've proven it's super vulnerable. Okay, fine, we're proving that all these things can be done. Okay, we're proving that they did happen in some capacity, but it's like they go from it's impossible to, okay, the whole point being is that they're never going to admit that the outcome that they rigged is going to be, that's somehow not the outcome. It's gonna be crazy, that this is the chain of, I don't even know what to call it. Is it like it's like a chain of lies, or it's like a denial complex or something, where it's like you start with a full, this not only did this not happen, this could not have happened, And then it just keeps walking back, and walking back until you get to the truth. And the truth is, in this case, they're crooked. And this was done deliberately, because that's going to be the next thing. They're going to get the data, and they're going to say, okay, well, all right, so it did occur. It occurred on a wide scale. It was enough to affect the election, but nobody did it deliberately. That'll be the next thing. And then maybe they'll be able to get away with that, because maybe these people covered their tracks well enough. But it's, you guys see the problem here. So this is my short little video talking about Chain of Lies, and I hope you guys are not. I'm not the only one who sees this going on. And if you guys look, and you particularly if you go back and look at the way articles are written about stuff, like archive stuff, all the way from the Clinton, you can look at this in the Clinton scandal. You can look at this the email scandal. You can look at this for Obamagate with the spying. You can look at this with the almost any scandal that involves essentially something that's really damaging, and that takes months to develop. This is how they do it. In this case, we're seeing it happen over a period of a couple days, where it goes from, oh, it's impossible, to, okay, it's possible, but it didn't occur. Okay, it did occur, but it was a mistake. Okay, it did occur, it wasn't a mistake, but it wasn't enough to affect. You guys can see this happen in real time. So I just wanted to point that out, and maybe just wake some of you guys up to, like, this is a tactic that they will use to make it really hard for you to have a conversation with anybody, let alone somebody on the left, to explain what's going on, because it always rolls to the next most believable lie. And that's what happens, guys. This is the media lets them do it, and we got to start thinking for ourselves a lot more, and not trusting because the media reported it that it's true or even was said. It's they want to comfort you because they don't want you to question them. And if they want you also to browbeat people who are questioning it, questioning the election outcome, because they're crazy, they believe in conspiracies, they believe in whatever. It's like, no, guys, that's not what's going on here. We can see clear as day. And you guys have already been wrong about it not being possible to happen, and you're wrong about it not happening at all, and you're wrong about this and this. Like how many more times do you guys have to be wrong before you just admit, okay, this needs to be looked into, and some shady shit went on, and actually be interested in knowing what the truth is, not just giving a plausible explanation and then not investigating. So that's all. Trump's been on a freaking Twitter storm, man. He's kicking Dominion's ass right now. I think some people might end up in jail, but he also has to win the election. And I should say he's won, but he has to actually, win. Unfortunately, those things mean two different things. There's a dual meaning to the word win. And here's hoping, right? We'll find out.